How did a desolate, mosquito-infested marshland on the edge of the known universe transform into the financial and cultural heartbeat of the planet? This isn't just a story of a city. It's a story of survival, a narrative of a place that has been burned, plagued, bombed, and abandoned, only to reinvent itself every single time. Before we dive into this epic saga, recreated with the cutting-edge precision of artificial intelligence to bring these lost eras to life, I have a question for you. If your world was erased tomorrow, would you have the courage to build it back better? This is the history of London. If you love deep dives into the secrets of our past and the possibilities of our future, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. You won't want to miss a single chapter of this journey. To understand London, you must first understand its duality. Today, it is a shimmering megalopolis, a world city, where more than 300 languages are spoken. It is a place where a Nigerian street food stall sits comfortably in the shadow of a 1,000-year-old cathedral. But if you were to peel back the layers of time, past the Victorian sewers, past the medieval cobblestones, you would find a landscape that was once utterly unremarkable. Before the year 43 AD, there was no London. There were no bridges. There were no roads. There was only a tidal river, the Thames, snaking through thick forests and treacherous mudflats. It was a frontier. The tribes of Britain lived in hill forts elsewhere. They saw no value in this swampy basin. Yet this insignificant patch of earth held a secret. It was the perfect gateway to the heart of an island. The transformation of London is the ultimate proof that geography is destiny, but only when met by the relentless ambition of the human spirit. The story truly begins with the boots of Roman legionaries hitting the mud. When Emperor Claudius invaded Britain, his engineers looked at the Thames and saw a strategic goldmine. They built a bridge, the first London Bridge, and established a trading post called Londinium. Within decades, it wasn't just a camp, it was a cosmopolitan hub. Imagine the smells of Mediterranean olive oil and garum mixing with the damp British air. Merchants from North Africa, soldiers from the Rhine, and bureaucrats from Rome filled the streets. But this early glory was met with fire. In 60 AD, the warrior Queen Boudica led a scorched earth revolt. She burned Londinium to the ground. Archaeologists today can still find the red layer, a thick band of burnt debris in the soil that marks this total destruction. But London's first lesson was resilience. The Romans didn't flee, they rebuilt on a massive scale. They constructed a formidable wall, the London Wall, encompassing 330 acres. They built a forum, a basilica, and an amphitheatre. For 300 years, London was the shining jewel of the north. However, as the Roman Empire crumbled from within, the legions were recalled to Rome in 410 AD. The lights went out, the shops closed, the great stone buildings fell silent. London became a ghost town. For the next few centuries, the ruins of Londinium were a place of mystery and fear. The Anglo-Saxon settlers who arrived viewed the Roman stone structures as the work of giants and refused to live within the walls. They feared the ghosts of the old empire. Instead of restoring the Roman city, they founded a new settlement a mile to the west, called Londinium, near modern-day Covent Garden. This was a shift in the city's DNA. It wasn't a fortress of imperial power, it was a wick, a trading beach. It was decentralized, organic, and messy. The London we know began to breathe again, not as a military outpost, but as a marketplace. This era reminds us that sometimes, to move forward, we have to step away from the shadows of the past and build something entirely new. By the 800s, the riches of Londinium attracted the deadliest predators of the era, the Vikings. The great heathen army tore through England, and Londinium, with its wooden huts and lack of walls, was a sitting duck. It was looted, burned, and occupied. The city's survival hung by a thread until Alfred the Great, King of Wessex. Alfred understood something crucial: trade is impossible without security. In 886 AD, he drove the Vikings out and made a radical decision. He forced the population to move back inside the old Roman walls. He repaired the stone defenses that had stood derelict for 400 years. This move, the Bar system, re-established London as a fortified stronghold. It was here that London's identity as the political and defensive heart of England was permanently forged. As the first millennium drew to a close, London was the prize every king wanted. When William the Conqueror arrived from Normandy in 1066, he knew he couldn't just burn London, he had to dominate it. He gave the city a charter to respect its rights, but in the same breath, he began building the Tower of London. The White Tower, looming over the city, was a psychological weapon. Built with white stone from France, it told the Londoners, "I am your protector, but I am also your master." This period saw the city evolve into a center of gravity for royalty. The nearby Westminster became the seat of government, while the city remained the seat of money. This dual-core power structure, government in the West, finance in the East, remains the blueprint of London to this day. By the 1200s, London was a beehive of activity. This was the era of the guilds, powerful associations of merchants and craftsmen. The city was no longer just a playground for kings. It was becoming a self-governing entity. The construction of the Great Stone London Bridge, finished in 1209, was a medieval wonder. It was a street in itself, lined with houses and shops, spanning the treacherous river. During this time, Londoners fought for, and won, the right to elect their own mayor. This was the birth of civic pride. The city's economy exploded as it became a key player in the European wool trade. But with density and wealth came a hidden, microscopic enemy. In 1348, the world ended for many Londoners. The Black Death arrived on the back of fleas and rats. Within months, nearly half the population was dead. The social fabric tore apart. But history shows us that catastrophe often leads to evolution. The labor shortage caused by the plague gave the surviving peasants and workers more leverage. When the government tried to suppress wages and implement a poll tax, the city exploded in the peasants' revolt of 1381. Rebels marched on London, burning palaces and demanding freedom. Though the revolt was suppressed, the message was clear. The common people of London were a force to be reckoned with. The city was no longer just a collection of buildings, it was a collection of voices. The Tudor era transformed London into a global stage. Henry VII's Reformation broke the power of the Catholic Church, and the vast monastic lands were seized and sold off. This unleashed a real estate boom that saw the city sprawl beyond its walls. Under Elizabeth I, London became the new Rome. This was the age of Shakespeare and Marlowe. On the South Bank, in the Liberties where the law was lax, the Globe Theatre rose. Simultaneously, the first joint stock companies, like the East India Company, were founded in London's backrooms. London was no longer just trading wool with Belgium. It was reaching out to the Americas, India, and the East. It was the dawn of an empire, fueled by curiosity, greed, and a limitless sense of possibility. The mid-17th century brought two of the greatest traumas in human history. In 1665, the Great Plague returned, killing 100,000 people. Then, in September 1666, a small fire in a bakery on Pudding Lane turned into an inferno. For 4 days, the Great Fire raged. The medieval city of timber and overhanging eaves was a tinderbox. St. Paul's Cathedral melted. Its lead roof ran like water down the streets. When the smoke cleared, 80% of the city was gone. It was a blank slate. But Londoners refused to give up. Within days, plans were being drawn. While they didn't adopt Christopher Wren's vision of a grid city, they did mandate brick and stone instead of wood. They widened the streets. They built a new St. Paul's, a dome that would dominate the skyline for centuries. The fire destroyed the past, but paved the way for a modern, safer metropolis. In the 1700s, London became the brain of the world. This was the age of enlightenment. Coffee houses, known as penny universities, became the breeding ground for insurance, Lloyd's, the stock exchange, and modern journalism. The city expanded west into the elegant squares of Mayfair and St. James. Wealth from the colonies poured in, funding grand architecture, but also hiding the dark reality of the slave trade that propped up much of this prosperity. London was now the largest city in Europe, a place of intense intellectual light and deep moral shadows.
Hurry, get the bags on board.
The 1800s saw London grow into a monster. It was the first city to reach a population of 1 million, then 2 million, then 6 million. It was the heart of the Industrial Revolution. This was the London of Charles Dickens, a city of incredible wealth and stomach-churning poverty. The Great Stink of 1858, when the Thames became an open sewer, forced the city to build the most advanced sewage system in the world. They built the first underground railway, the Tube, and massive docks. The Victorian era was an era of engineering, a desperate, brilliant attempt to stop the city from choking on its own success. The 20th century tested London's soul. During the Blitz of 1940-41, the Luftwaffe dropped thousands of tons of explosives on the city. For 57 consecutive nights, London burned. People slept in tube stations, and the East End was flattened. Post-war London was a place of austerity. The smog, the Great Smog of 1952, killed thousands. The British Empire was dissolving, and many thought London's day was done. The city was grey, battered, and losing its way. But as we've seen, London is never more dangerous than when it is backed into a corner. The rebirth came from the sea. The arrival of the HMT Empire Windrush in 1948 brought people from the Caribbean, followed by migrants from India, Pakistan, and beyond. This new London was vibrant, rhythmic, and multicultural. In the 1980s, the Big Bang deregulated the financial markets. The derelict docklands were transformed into the gleaming towers of Canary Wharf. London stopped being a manufacturing hub and became the world's banker. It became a cultural powerhouse again, from the swinging 60s to the Britpop 90s. The city didn't just survive, it rebranded itself for the digital age. Today, London is a city of sharp contrasts. You have the luxury apartments of 9 Elms standing near social housing estates. You have the historic ceremonies of the monarchy coexisting with a tech sector that rivals Silicon Valley. The skyline is a forest of cranes. The city is currently grappling with the challenges of the 21st century: housing costs, the impact of Brexit, and the need for environmental sustainability. But if you walk across the Millennium Bridge and look at the river, you realize that the Thames has seen it all before. It has seen the Romans, the Vikings, the fire, and the bombs. And through it all, London remains. London's story is a testament to the fact that nothing is permanent except change. The city's defining trait isn't its stone or its steel, it's its resilience. It is a city that knows how to die and how to be born again. The lesson for us is simple. Crisis is the precursor to transformation. When the Romans left, a new trade city was born. When the fire burned the city down, a stone metropolis arose. When the bombs fell, a more inclusive and global society was forged. In your own life, you will face fires. You will face moments where your foundations are shaken. When that happens, don't look for the way things were. Look for the way things can be. Adaptation isn't just a survival strategy, it's a superpower. Before we go, I want to hear from you. Which era of London's history do you find most inspiring? Was it the Roman grit, the Victorian ambition, or the modern cultural rebirth? Let me know in the comments below. I wish you all great health. the strength to rebuild when things get tough, and the vision to see the metropolis in the marshland. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to join our community of explorers. Until next time.